Thank you. Before I begin a sermon, I want to make an announcement. You have been with me through the last year and a half with all kinds of news that has been difficult and sad. And I thank you for walking these months and year and a half with me. But today I also get to give you some other kind of news, some good news. As of a couple of days ago, our son Andrew, who worships with us, and Christy Duffy, who is a member of this congregation and a Sunday school teacher and worships here, are now engaged. So they were engaged Thursday, I guess, on the Outer Banks in North Carolina. I talked with them, I texted a lot in the evening, and then talked with them on Friday morning, and Christy said every person she met she had to tell. So we're all excited about that news. It's good to have that kind of news at this point. So may the words of my mouth, the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our God. I had a dream. Oh, it was a poetic dream, but it was a dream nevertheless. And in this dream, I had a conversation with Jesus. I'm sure you've had many such dreams and conversations. And in this poetic dream, Jesus spoke to me. And he said, Stan, I set you free. And when I set you free, you're free indeed. Well, in this poetic dream, I was a little obnoxious with Jesus. I said, come on, Jesus, what do you mean, free? I've never been a slave to anyone. I've never been in bondage to anyone. What are you talking about, being made free? And all Jesus did was smile. Didn't say a word, just smiled. You know, kind of one of those smiles that says, I know more than you do. I hate those smiles. Yeah, just smile. And so I decided to continue being obnoxious. I said, Jesus, I'm free. Look at you, Jesus. I live in a democracy. I'm free to vote or not vote if I want it. I'm free. Religiously, I'm free. I can believe in anything I want to believe in, and I've chosen to believe in you. See, I'm free. And spiritually, I've never been addicted to anything. I'm free. So there too, Jesus, I am free. And all Jesus did was smile. You know, that smile that says he knows something I don't know. And as he smiled, my mind began to wander. And it went back quite a ways. And I pictured myself going to the cookie jar. And there was only one cookie left in the cookie jar. And I pictured myself going to the freezer, and there was only one helping of ice cream left in the freezer. And I ate it. I didn't bother asking if anybody else wanted any. I ate it. And the word came to me, selfish. And then my mind went way back to when I was a teenager and I was working with my father. He was a contractor building homes, and I was up on the rafters and I was pounding away on the nails, and I couldn't hit one of them straight. I kept bending all the nails. And pretty soon he got frustrated and angry, and he said, you're never going to make a man if you can't hit a nail straight. And I became afraid of not being perfect, of not meeting expectations. And the word fear came to my mind. And then my mind continued to roam, and I remembered, oh, how well I remembered, all the times in the family when I would get so angry with Andrew and Peter when they were little and being little kids, and my explosions of anger. And the word anger came through my mind. And then I didn't have to go too far back, and I remembered being impatient with God and trying to take life into my own hands and not wanting to wait for what God might have for me. And the words lack of trust came to my mind. Well, in this poetic dream, I wasn't done yet arguing with God or with Jesus. So I said, Jesus, okay, I'm not perfect. Look at these people. They aren't either. So, I'm a good guy, Jesus. You know that. I'm kind of nice, and I like people, and I help people. And on top of that, Jesus, I have been your pastor for all of these years. Doesn't that count for anything? And he smiled. And he shook his head. No. No. And then he said, if you continue in my word, you will know the truth. And you will truly be my disciples, and you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed. And in this poetic dream, I finally said, yes, Lord. That is what I want. That is what I want. Well, the dream is over. The poetic dream is over. But the invitation of Jesus still rings in my mind. Free, 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 free. Freedom. Freedom often is something every teenager doesn't think they have and they want. Freedom. Oppressed people cry for freedom and they shed their blood for freedom. Every girl and every woman who is enslaved in the sex trade longs for freedom. Every person behind bars looks out and hopes for freedom. Every person controlled by an abusive individual needs freedom. Yes, freedom is something longed for, hoped for, fought for, died for, prayed for, cried for. Freedom. And Jesus said, if you continue in my word, you will truly be my disciples. And you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. So if the Son makes you free, you're free indeed. If you continue in my word. That little word, continue, is an important word. Continue. The word continue means to abide. Well, how many of you have used that word lately with your friends? Oh, yes, I abide in... No, it's not a word we use anymore. Well, the word continue also means to dwell. Yeah, we're getting a little more contemporary, but we don't use the word dwell very often. You know, I don't dwell anywhere. I live somewhere, I don't dwell. But the word continue also means to take up residence in. Ah, I can understand that. I have a residence in 4116 Green Acres Place, Algona. I understand what it means to take up residence in. Jesus doesn't give us simply steps or principles to follow. He doesn't give us strenuous, really difficult spiritual disciplines that we have to do. He simply invites us into a new place to live, a new residence. And that residence, that new place to live, is his word. His word that's sharper than any two-edged sword. His word that is sweeter than the best honey you've ever tasted. His word that is living and active. His word that is life-changing and transformative and freedom-giving. In John chapter 5, Jesus is speaking about himself, and he says of the scriptures, the word, he says, the scriptures testify on my behalf. That is, the word of God shows us Jesus. Gives us Jesus. Every pastor you've ever had And if you had a whole string of pastors, you know every pastor you've ever had has told you, be in the Word, be in the Bible, be in the Word, be in the Word, be in the Word. Why? Why? Because it's through the Word that the Spirit works to transform our lives, to give us freedom. That's one of the primary ways that God works. Now, Jesus did not give us techniques and methods to enter into his Word. He said, simply live in it. He didn't tell us how. So, guess what? I get to tell you how. And I'm not going to elaborate here, but in your bulletin, on a sheet of paper, there is something called Lectio Divina, also meaning sacred readings. It's a method of entering into the Word of God that goes back centuries upon centuries upon centuries. People have been using it for a long time. I give that to you as fairly self-explanatory. I give it to you as something you might want to look at. You might want to even do it. And if you have questions about it, well, I'm always willing to talk about it. So it's there for you. You will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. And then, a little bit later, Jesus said, so if the Son makes you free, you'll be free indeed. In other words, the truth and the Son are the same thing. They are Jesus. It is Jesus who makes us free. But what is this freedom that he gives us? What does it mean that we have freedom? Oftentimes when we think of freedom, we think of, well, kind of independence, self-sufficiency. I want to be financially free, so no matter what the stock market does, no matter what my pension does, I have enough money somehow, somewhere, I don't know where, that's going to be able to weather anything. We think that self-sufficiency and independence is freedom. Well, I think freedom that Jesus is talking about is totally, totally different. Freedom is having the right boss. Freedom is having the right master, the right CEO, the right Lord. For you see, in my life, the old master was selfishness, that last cookie. Don't ever ask anyone if they want it, because they might, and you might not get it. That old master was fear, the fear of failure, the fear of not living up to expectations. The old master was anger that exploded and wrecked way too many family events. The old master was my need to be in control and not trusting God for the outcomes. Yes, the old master was my self-centered, sinful life. That was the master. That was the boss of my life. And now this new boss, his name is Jesus. He enters in through the Word and the Spirit and begins to make some changes, begins to break the chains of selfishness and break the chains of anger and impatience and the need for control and everything else. Yes, we are set free right now. It's not something that's just in the future, it is now. Oh, it's not brought to perfection. We still blow it so many times. So we have freedom now, and it ultimately will be fulfilled when we see Jesus face to face. But freedom is something that we have now. So freedom is sort of like this. Jesus says, this is the way, walk in it. And then he gives us the power to do it. That's freedom. That's freedom. Let me explain it a little differently. How many of you, be honest, how many of you have ever been on a diet? Hey, well, some of you are truthful. And I think all of the diets I've ever been on are assuming that you have a really strong willpower and can avoid the mocha, say, sorry, Daddy, can avoid the mocha, or the donuts, or the carbohydrates, or anything else that's bad for you, which is everything else. And diets are predicated on the assumption that you have the willpower to do it. But I'll tell you, it has never worked for me. I've been on the diets and I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to work hard. And I lose weight, and then I gain it back. I lose weight, and then I gain more back. Always. Yeah, if the power of a diet is willpower, it doesn't work for me. Lately, I joined a small group. I'm a participant, not a leader, a participant in a group here at Grace. Every Monday night, we meet. It's called the Daniel Plan. It's not a diet. It's a lifestyle change issue. And the basic difference between this and anything else I've been on is it assumes your willpower will never be enough to do it. But instead, as a Christian, you have a source of power within you, the very power of God, that's able to make changes in your life, to do things differently in your life, including that of weight and including that of exercise. Yes, freedom, Jesus says. Freedom is not being independent and self-sufficient. It's having the right boss. Lord, Master, CEO. It's removing self from that throne, that place of control, and trusting that the Spirit of Jesus will begin to make changes in our lives. And if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. Now, I assume every one of you at some point in time had been brought to the baptismal font. And you were baptized into Christ. And as you were baptized into Christ, you have everything that Jesus offers to you. In 1 John it says, see what love the Father has given us, that we should be called children of God, and so you are. But sometimes, even as children of God, we have still tried to be the boss of our lives. We have still tried to act as if somehow we could control things. That we had strong enough power in ourselves to do anything. And Jesus is such a gentle person that he never forces his way upon us, but always invites us to say, change ownership. Change ownership. Let me be the boss. It's not something we do once and then we say, okay. It's something that I do every day and many times a day. You're the boss, not me. If you've never invited him, asked him to be the boss, maybe this would be a good time.